Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we've got some unbelievable real life stories drama, betrayal, heartbreak, and everything in between. So sit back, relax, and let's get into it.
He proposed, then screamed, "Just kidding," and that wasn't even the worst part. My name is Emily. I'm 24, and until recently, I thought I knew what love looked like. I'd been with my boyfriend Mark for 6 years. 6 years of believing we had the same goals, the same dreams, and someday, even the same last name. I wasn't shy about wanting to get married. Mark knew that. Everyone knew that. And leading up to my birthday, he started dropping all these little hints. He booked me a spa day. He insisted I get my nails done. He kept smiling at me like he was hiding something big. For the first time in a long time, I let myself hope. The night everything changed. We went out to dinner with friends, our usual group, laughing, drinking, celebrating. And then suddenly, Mark stood up, clinked his glass, and got down on one knee. My heart stopped. He said everything I had ever dreamed of hearing, how much he loved me, how he wanted to spend forever with me, and he opened a ring box. I burst into tears. Everyone gasped. I said yes immediately. And that's when he jumped up, threw his arms in the air, and yelled, "Just kidding, it's a prank." His best friend had been filming the whole thing for a YouTube prank channel. I felt the floor drop out from under me. My friends' faces went pale. The waitress looked horrified, and I ran out of the restaurant sobbing. The aftermath. When I finally got home, shaking, humiliated, absolutely crushed, Mark told me I needed to lighten up, that it was just one little joke, that I was being dramatic. He didn't apologize. He didn't comfort me. He didn't even understand what he did. We barely spoke for days. Then he texted me asking if he should stay somewhere else this weekend. I told him he was not welcome in our home, and that should have been the end of it. But the universe had one more twist. The truth comes out. I contacted one of his friends to let him know I was moving out. That's when I found out Mark hadn't been staying with him. Another friend did some digging and discovered where he had really been. Mark wasn't just staying with someone else. He'd been cheating on me for months, while living with me, while letting me believe we had a future, while humiliating me publicly for content. Everything shattered at once, the prank, the disrespect, the betrayal. I packed my things and moved back in with my parents. My dad, who's a lawyer, is making sure that prank video never sees the light of day. The ending I didn't see coming. Mark blew up my phone with calls and messages once he realized I knew. He begged, he pleaded, he swore it meant nothing. But the truth was clear. He never respected me, not in private, not in public, not in our relationship. And now, he has to live with the consequences. Me, I'm moving on, slowly, painfully, but forward. Final question for viewers. Would you have stayed after the prank? Or did the cheating make the breakup inevitable? What would you have done in her place? My advice and mature perspective. Emily, what happened to you wasn't a joke gone too far. It was a man showing you exactly who he is when he thinks he won't face consequences. A real partner protects your dignity, especially in public. A real partner communicates, apologizes, and grows. Most importantly, a real partner doesn't cheat while planning pranks for views. You didn't lose a good man. You dodged a future filled with disrespect. And sometimes the universe lets a mask fall off in the most dramatic way possible, so we don't waste another 6 years on someone unworthy of our love. I fell for someone else because my boyfriend broke me first. My story. My name is Claire. I'm 27, and for 3 years, I was in a relationship that looked perfect from the outside, but inside, it was quietly rotting. When I met my boyfriend, Jason, he felt like the person I could build a life with. Kind, funny, supportive. For the first year, things were honestly amazing, but then everything changed. Where the cracks started. Around our 1-year anniversary, I found out Jason had been lying. He told me he had no feelings for women from his past, yet he was secretly looking them up on social media. He promised to stop watching porn, and then I found out he continued doing it behind my back. Each little betrayal chipped away at my trust, and trust, once broken, never goes back to brand new. For the next 2 years, I tried to hold the relationship together with my bare hands. He kept promising change, he kept begging me to stay, he kept telling me he was working on himself. But my heart had already started shutting down. The person who saw me eventually I reconnected with an old friend, someone I'll call Ethan. And unlike Jason, he listened. He understood. He made me feel emotionally safe again. I didn't plan for feelings to grow. I didn't want them to. But when you've been starving for emotional connection, the first warm place feels like home. I hated myself for it. I tried to push the feelings down, and because Ethan is a therapist, I confided in him, hoping he could help me sort things out. Instead, he admitted he had feelings for me too. We both agreed to set boundaries and step back, but I had already crossed a line in my heart. The confession, I told Jason everything. I told him about the emotional connection, the conversations, the feelings. And to my surprise, he forgave me. He said he wasn't angry. He said he understood I felt lonely. He said he still wanted to fight for us, and that should have made me feel better. But it didn't, because somewhere deep down, I knew I still hadn't forgiven him for the lies he told years ago. I still hadn't healed from the broken trust, and now I had added my own betrayal on top of his. We were two wounded people trying to convince ourselves this was still love. Where I am now, I feel guilt, I feel shame, I feel confusion, but mostly, I feel tired. I don't know if this relationship can ever be fixed. I don't know if we're holding on or just afraid to let go. Final question for viewers. If both partners have broken trust at different times, can a relationship ever truly be rebuilt? Or is this the moment they should walk away? My advice and mature perspective. Claire, emotional cheating is a symptom, not a cause. You turn towards someone else because you were already emotionally abandoned in your relationship. Jason's forgiveness doesn't erase the fact that for 2 years you were carrying the weight of his dishonesty alone. You can't rebuild trust on top of resentment. You can't heal in the same place you were hurt unless both people are willing to grow. And from what you've shared, only one of you is doing the inner work, and it's you. Sometimes love ends not with a betrayal, but with exhaustion. And leaving isn't a failure. It's recognizing that you deserve peace more than you deserve guilt. He thought I was pregnant, but the real reason terrified me. My name is Lena, I'm 26, and just a few months ago, I thought my marriage was safe, loving, and stable. But then one ordinary day, my husband Daniel looked at me with pure excitement and said, "I know you're pregnant." Except, I wasn't. And everything that happened next still feels like a nightmare I can't wake up from. The first signs. Something was wrong. It started small. I mentioned feeling tired one morning. Nothing unusual. But a few hours later, Daniel walked into the room beaming with joy. "I knew it," he said. "You're pregnant. I can feel it." I laughed at first, thinking he was joking, but he kept repeating it every day, sometimes several times a day. I bought a pregnancy test just to reassure him and myself. Negative. Clear as day. I showed him the test, expecting relief. Instead, he got irritated. He said home tests could be wrong. He told me I was acting weird. Then he shut down and barely spoke to me for the rest of the night. The next morning, he acted as if nothing had happened. That was the first moment I felt afraid. When joy turns into obsession, over the next week, his behavior only intensified. He talked about baby names. He touched my stomach in bed. He told me what kind of father he was going to be. He even described the nursery he wanted to build. Every time I told him I wasn't pregnant, he got colder, more distant, more disconnected from reality. One night, when he placed his hand on my stomach again, something inside me snapped. "Daniel, you're scaring me. I am not pregnant." He stared at me like I was the one losing my mind. Then he left the room without a word and slept in the guest room. That was the night I realized this wasn't excitement. This wasn't hope. This was something much darker. The escalation, I called my mom. I called his parents. I made a doctor appointment for a blood test. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply, dangerously wrong. But before I could even get the test done, everything exploded. When I gently suggested we talk to a doctor together, he snapped. He called me a liar. He accused me of hiding our baby. He said I was trying to take something away from him. My sweet, gentle, loving husband was suddenly someone I didn't recognize. And then he shoved me, not hard enough to require emergency care, but hard enough to shatter my heart. This wasn't my husband. This was something else hijacking his mind. I ran. His parents rushed over. Mine took me in. For the first time in my life, I felt unsafe around the man I loved more than anything. The diagnosis that broke us. Days later, the truth finally came out. Daniel had a brain tumor, a real physical mass pressing into the part of his brain responsible for logic, emotions, and reality itself. Suddenly, everything made sense. His confusion, his obsession, his paranoia, his explosive reactions, his emotional swings. He wasn't becoming a monster. His brain was failing him. And the man I married was slipping away. The unthinkable. He was hospitalized. Some days he recognized me. Some days he begged me not to leave him. Some days he couldn't stand the sight of me. The doctors tried. The specialists tried. We all prayed. But 5 weeks after the diagnosis, they told us the truth. He wasn't strong enough for treatment. He had maybe a month left. I felt angry at the world, angry at fate, angry at him, even though he did nothing wrong. Grief does strange things to the human heart. And then, on October 16th, Daniel passed away. My husband, my best friend, the man who wanted to be a father, the man who would have been an incredible one, gone. Life after loss. It's been over a year. Some days I feel okay. Some days the grief hits so hard I can't breathe. But I'm working again. I'm in therapy. I'm taking life slowly, step by step. And I adopted a dog, one of the few things that helped me get out of bed. I miss him every day. But I'm learning to live again. Final question for viewers. If someone you love suddenly starts acting irrationally, would you assume the worst about them? Or would you consider that something medical could be happening? This story reminds us, sometimes the villain isn't a person, it's an illness we can't see. My advice and mature perspective, Lena, you did everything right. You listened to your instincts, you sought help, and you protected both yourself and him during a terrifying crisis. People forget this, but dramatic personality changes can absolutely be caused by medical issues, brain tumors, neurological conditions, even infections. You weren't overreacting. You were witnessing your husband's mind slipping away. And the anger you felt? That's a normal part of grief. Love and rage often coexist when life rips someone away too soon. You honored him by fighting for answers. And you honor yourself by continuing to heal. Your story is heartbreaking, but it's also a reminder of how fragile and precious our minds truly are. She said it was just a mistake until the mistakes took everything from us. My name is Andrew, and this is the story of how the woman I loved, my wife, Melissa, slowly, unintentionally, but undeniably, became a danger to our children, and how I had to make the hardest choice a husband and father can make. The first signs of trouble. Before we married, Melissa had 2 kids from her previous relationship. I loved them like my own. Later, we had 2 children together, 4 kids total in our blended family. But there was one problem, a problem she refused to acknowledge. Melissa was a terrible driver. Not the kind of driver who gets a speeding ticket once in a while. No, the kind who forgets she's operating a 2-ton machine. She'd take her hands off the wheel to grab something, turn around to deal with a fussy child, reach into the back seat while the car was still moving. I begged her to stop. I told her to pull over if she needed to handle the kids. I offered to drive everywhere, but she always said the same thing. I'm fine. I just lose focus sometimes. The accident that should have been the wake-up call. One day at a red light, our toddler dropped his pacifier. Instead of parking, Melissa unbuckled her seatbelt, turned around, and took her foot off the brake to reach for it. The car drifted forward into moving traffic. She was T-boned. All 4 children were in the back. By some miracle, only Melissa was injured. But the moment I got that phone call, something inside me changed forever. I remember standing outside the hospital, shaking, thinking, next time, I might lose my children. I pleaded with her. Her parents pleaded with her. Her ex-husband threatened legal action. But she brushed it all off and said, it was an accident. I didn't mean it. That was the problem. She never meant to be dangerous, but she was dangerous. The ultimatum. When she finally recovered enough to drive again, I sat her down. I told her I loved her. I told her I loved all 4 kids. But I also told her, if you ever drive irresponsibly with our children in the car again, I will divorce you. I will fight for full custody, and I will make sure a court orders you never to drive them anywhere. She cried, said I was being unfair, said I was treating her like she was stupid, but I wasn't trying to insult her. I was trying to save our family. The second accident. Months later, it happened again. She was alone this time, thank God. But the pattern was the same. She took her hands off the wheel. She turned around to reach for something. She didn't put the car in park, and she drove straight into a canal. The moment I heard the news, I felt my heart turn to stone. It wasn't anger anymore. It was fear. Fear of what would happen if I didn't take action. So I did. I went to see her in the hospital. Then I went straight to a lawyer. I filed for divorce. I filed for full custody, and I demanded, legally, that she be barred from driving our children. I still loved her, but love doesn't protect kids. Action does. The final blow. Melissa's insurance required her to install a dash cam after all the accidents. One afternoon, she was driving with her new dog in the back seat. The dog started making gagging, choking sounds. Instantly, without thinking, Melissa turned around to check on him. No hands on the wheel, no eyes on the road, and in that small window of distraction, she drifted into oncoming traffic. A semi-truck hit her. She didn't survive. The aftermath, no one wanted. My kids lost their mother. Her older kids lost their only parent. Her parents lost their daughter. And despite everything, I lost someone I once loved deeply. I can't begin to describe the guilt. Even though I know I had no control over her choices, I still wake up wondering if I could have saved her, if I could have saved us. But the truth is, Melissa wasn't reckless because she wanted to be. She was reckless because she didn't understand the danger. She didn't understand the stakes. Not until it was too late. Final question for viewers. Would you have stayed and kept trying to fix things, or would you have left sooner to protect the kids? Was Andrew right to draw the line where he did? My advice and mature perspective. Andrew, your story is heartbreaking, but you made the right decisions every step of the way. A spouse can make mistakes. A spouse can learn. But when someone repeatedly endangers children, even unintentionally, you must put safety above loyalty. You offered help. You offered alternatives. You offered compromise. But you cannot force someone to change if they don't believe change is necessary. Her death wasn't your fault. Her driving habits were a long-standing issue that no amount of love could fix. And your children are alive today because you took action when you did. Sometimes being a parent means choosing the painful path, the one that protects your kids, even if it breaks your heart. I loved her, but loving her meant walking on broken glass. My name is Matt. I'm 31, and this is the story of the woman who had everything I ever wanted and the one thing I couldn't survive. The woman I thought I'd marry when I met Alyssa, I felt like I hit the jackpot. She was loyal, family-oriented, affectionate, homebody type, not into clubs, not into drama. She cooked, she cared, she held me when I was tired. She made me feel like I could build a future. But there was one part of her that didn't just not fit. It wrecked everything else. Her emotions. Not normal emotions. Not everyday disagreements. No, Alyssa felt everything like a hurricane. And unfortunately, I became the coastline she crashed into every time. The smallest spark became a fire. It could be anything. If I wasn't enthusiastic enough about getting dessert, she cried. If I felt sick and needed a quiet night, she thought I was rejecting her. If I asked for space, she said I was punishing her. And when she spiraled, it wasn't just a 10-minute argument. It was hours, sometimes days. Long paragraphs about how I hurt her. Accusations that I didn't care, calling me names, blaming me for triggering her feelings. And never, not once, letting me express how the situation hurt me too. I didn't feel like a partner. I felt like an emotional punching bag waiting for the next hit. The breaking point. One night, during an argument, something inside me finally snapped. I was dizzy. My chest hurt. I told her I needed a break, just a moment to calm down. Instead of asking if I was okay, she told me, "You always play the victim. You love acting pathetic." That was the first moment in years I talked back. I told her to screw off. Not my proudest moment, but I was drowning. And the days that followed were a flood of emotional dumping from her that pushed me further and further away. But something strange happened too. I felt relief. Actual, physical relief, like taking off a tight shoe after hours of pain. That scared me more than anything. The realization I loved her, I missed her, I cared about her. But every time she cried, I braced myself, like someone bracing before being hit. I didn't want to live a life where peace only existed between storms. I asked her to try healthier communication. I asked her to look into emotional regulation. I even suggested therapy. She refused. She said it was all my fault for triggering her. And that's when I finally accepted the truth. You can't fix a relationship alone, and you can't love someone into emotional stability. Where we stand now, we're on a break. And while part of me aches for her, another part is breathing for the first time in months. I don't know what's next. I don't know if love is enough. I don't know if she wants to change. But I do know that I can't keep living in a home where feelings turn into weapons. Final question for viewers. Can a relationship survive when one partner refuses therapy or accountability? Or is love not enough when emotions become toxic? My advice and mature perspective. Matt, emotional intensity isn't the same as emotional maturity. Some people feel deeply, but they also refuse to learn how to manage those feelings. You can support a partner. You can listen, comfort, and compromise, but you cannot sacrifice your mental health to keep someone else emotionally regulated. Alyssa may be a wonderful person in many ways, but good qualities don't cancel out destructive patterns. And here's the truth many adults learn late. Love is not a substitute for stability, and stability is not possible with someone who won't own their part. If she wants change, she must do the work. Real work. Hard work. Not just apologies, not promises, but consistent emotional growth. Until then, protect your peace. It's the foundation of your future. 6 years of marriage, and I didn't know who my husband really was. My name is Rachel. I'm 25, and I've been with my husband Eric since I was 17. We built a home together. We had 3 beautiful little boys together. A family I thought was safe, a life I thought was real. But this year, I discovered that while I was building a family, Eric was building a secret world I was never meant to see. The family we built, or so I thought. Eric was a great dad. Everyone said so. He played with the kids, read them stories, tucked them into bed. And to me, he was affectionate, attentive, reliable. Not once in all these years did he hide his phone. Not once did he seem nervous or distant. I never, not for a single second, suspected anything. But apparently, a man can hold your hand with one arm and hide an entire second life behind his back with the other. The day the mask broke. It happened by accident. Eric slipped up in a story he was telling me. One tiny detail that didn't make sense. When I asked about it, he froze. And suddenly, everything came spilling out. Not because he felt guilty, not because he wanted to come clean, but because he got caught. He told me he'd been cheating for years, with escorts, with women he met online, with a woman we knew. He even slept with her during one of the darkest times of my life, right after my grandfather died. He admitted he had flirted with women in lobbies while I was asleep upstairs. He admitted he kissed someone while I was visiting my mom in the hospital. He admitted he called other women late at night just to talk. I stood there numb, listening to the man I loved list sins I didn't even know how to react to. 6 years, 3 kids, my childhood sweetheart, and I didn't know him at all. Trying to hold the broken pieces. When I found out, I left. I grabbed the kids and ran to my mom's. He cried, he begged, he followed me. He said he wanted to fix things for the kids. He said it was just physical. He said he never loved anyone but me. And the worst part, a piece of me still wanted to believe him. Because trauma does something strange to the heart. It makes you cling to the person who hurt you, stupidly hoping they'll magically become who you thought they were. So I tried. For 11 weeks, I tried. But every time I looked at him, something inside me screamed, if he hid this from you for 6 years, what makes you think he won't do it again? He had never been secretive. He had never hidden his phone. He had been so good at pretending that his openness wasn't honesty. It was confidence. Confidence that I would never, ever find out. The weight of my childhood, repeating itself. My father cheated on my mother. He had other families. He destroyed her. I told all of this to Eric years ago. I told him my biggest fear was becoming my mother. I told him how deeply it scarred me as a child. He looked me in the eyes and promised I would never do that to you. And then he did exactly that. Not once, not twice, but again and again throughout our entire marriage. Knowing my trauma, knowing my fears, knowing how I grew up, he still made the same choices as my father. How do you forgive something like that? How do you trust someone who crushed every part of your foundation? The question I still don't know how to answer. Can a marriage survive this level of betrayal? Can you rebuild something that was never real in the first place? I don't know. All I know is that the woman I was at 17 is gone. The woman who believed in fairy tales is gone. And the woman who stands in her place is exhausted. Exhausted from betrayal. Exhausted from pretending. Exhausted from loving someone who wore a mask for 6 years. I don't know whether to stay for the kids or leave for myself. Final question for viewers. If your husband confessed to years of hidden affairs, lies, escorts, secret calls, and betrayals, would you stay and try to rebuild, or would you walk away and start over? My advice and mature perspective, Rachel, what your husband did wasn't a mistake. It wasn't one bad decision. It wasn't weakness. It was a pattern, a long-term, intentional pattern of betrayal. A person doesn't cheat for 6 years by accident. A person doesn't maintain multiple affairs by accident. A person doesn't lie, hide, and manipulate by accident. And here's something only adults who've lived life will tell you. A partner who chooses deception for years has already imagined life without you. You don't rebuild trust from that. Not without deep, long-term therapy, and even then, the scar remains. Your children deserve a mother who is emotionally whole, not constantly bracing for the next lie. And you deserve peace. Peace you will never have with a man who proved he can live a double life while kissing your forehead goodnight. Leaving doesn't break a family. Lying does. Cheating does. Continuous betrayal does. And choosing to protect your mental health? That's not weakness. It's wisdom. She told me our love story was magical, then told me what really happened that night. My name is Evan. I'm 26, and until a few nights ago, I thought my relationship began like something out of a movie. Turns out, it was more like something from a deleted scene I was never supposed to see. The night I thought was our beginning. When I met Sophie, sparks flew instantly. We laughed at the same things. We spent every spare moment together. She talked like she wanted something real, something deep. So after about a month of dating, I told her I wanted to be exclusive. She got quiet. Her eyes softened. Then she got overwhelmed, said she needed some air, and walked out. I went home crushed, thinking I'd pushed too fast. But a few hours later, she called me crying in the rain. She showed up at my apartment, soaked, emotional, saying she did want a relationship. She just needed a moment to reflect. It felt cinematic, dramatic in the best way. I thought it was the beginning of our love story. Turns out, it was a cover for something else entirely. The drunk confession that changed everything. 2 years later, we were having one of those tipsy, tell me something wild conversations. Lighthearted, funny, playful. Until she said, "Okay, I have something crazy to admit. Don't get mad." And then she told me. On the night I asked her to be exclusive, when she walked out, she didn't go home to reflect. She didn't meditate. She didn't think things through. She went to another guy's apartment. A guy she'd hooked up with earlier that month. A guy she'd been texting behind the scenes. A guy she'd been keeping as her fun option. She slept with him for hours. And then, when she was done, she drove to my place in the rain to officially start our relationship, like she was washing him off and walking straight into her new life with me. It's not cheating if we weren't exclusive yet. That's the sentence she kept repeating. Technically, we weren't together. Technically, I didn't lie. Technically, I was just closing a chapter before starting ours. Isn't it funny how the word technically can make a betrayal sound like a math problem? What hurt wasn't whether it was technically cheating. What hurt was knowing she didn't need clarity. She didn't need time. She needed one last hookup before locking herself into us. She ended her situationship with a goodbye sleepover and then walked into my arms like nothing happened. The story I loved was never real. For 2 years, whenever people asked, "So how did you two become a couple?" I told this dramatic, romantic version. She ran out into the night to think. After reflecting, she came back knowing I was the one. But the truth? She was never thinking about me. She was thinking about him, right up until the moment she decided I was her safer option. The romantic rain scene wasn't about choosing me. It was about ending him. Now I don't know what's real anymore. I look at Sophie differently now. Not with hate, not with rage, but with this hollow kind of sadness. Because it wasn't just sex. It was the fact that she created a whole mythology around our beginning, a story she let me tell for years, while knowing it was built on a lie of omission. She didn't just rewrite history, she let me live in a version of it that never existed. Final question for viewers. Does not exclusive yet make this okay? Or is it still a betrayal if someone sleeps with another person hours before committing to you? Would you stay? My advice and mature perspective. Evan, let's be honest. She didn't technically cheat, but she killed the emotional truth of your relationship's beginning. Relationships aren't built on technicalities, they're built on intention. The intention behind her choice wasn't, I need clarity. It was, I want one last thrill before settling down. Great relationships begin with care, respect, honesty, not a goodbye hookup and a cleaned up story. And the fact that she hid it for years and only told you while drunk means she knew it would hurt you. People reveal their values in the moments they think you won't judge them. And her values, in that beginning moment, were feeling good, acting with integrity, avoiding discomfort, telling the truth, keeping you, being fully honest with you. Can people grow? Yes, but growth requires honesty, humility, and accountability, not technical loopholes. And only you can decide whether the story you thought you were living is one you can continue after knowing how it really began. I spent years escaping toxic partners until I realized the toxic one was me. My name is Maya. I'm 23, and this is the hardest truth I've ever had to say out loud. I think I'm the one destroying my relationships. Not because I want to, not because I enjoy hurting people, but because my anger, my fear, my wounds spill onto everyone who tries to love me. The pattern I kept running from, every relationship I've had ended the same way. Me screaming something I didn't mean. Them standing there hurt and confused. Me realizing too late that I crossed a line. Them walking away with a piece of my heart I never got back. And for the longest time, I told myself, they triggered me. They didn't understand me. I was hurting too. I didn't mean it, so it doesn't count. But the pattern kept repeating. Different partners, same ending, same pain, same guilt. And the only common denominator was me, the one that broke through my denial. The last relationship hurt the most. He was gentle, the sweetest, softest soul I'd ever met. A guy who looked like he could melt in your hands. He loved me deeply. He loved me honestly. And I still hurt him, even when I was trying to be full, even when I thought I was doing better, even when I promised myself I wouldn't repeat the past. But one moment, one argument, and my anger took over again. Sharp words, too loud, too cruel, too fast. And then it was over. Watching him walk away felt different, not like losing a boyfriend, but like losing the last chance to prove to myself that I wasn't as damaged as I feared. For the first time, I couldn't blame anyone else, because the truth was staring right at me. I hurt the people who love me the most, and I don't know how to stop. Why I think I'm like this. My home life was never gentle. Love was loud. Love was sharp. Love was full of slammed doors and heavy silences. I inherited those storms, and now I bring them into every relationship I enter. Whenever someone I love is hurting, or when I feel lost, or when life gets too heavy, my patience crumbles, my words become weapons, and my anger fires before my logic does. I don't want to be this way, but wanting isn't enough to change. What hurts the most? The people I hurt aren't strangers. They're the ones I would die to protect, and yet I become the source of their pain. It kills me to admit that. I don't want to be the villain of my own love story. I don't want to be the storm that ruins every good thing in my life. But I also know, if I don't acknowledge it now, I'll keep repeating the cycle, and the next person I love will pay for wounds they didn't create. The beginning of change. I don't want validation. I don't want excuses. I don't want anyone to tell me it wasn't that bad. I want solutions. I want peace inside myself. I want to communicate without cutting. I want my first reaction to be understanding, not anger. I want to love in a way that doesn't leave scars. And for the first time, instead of running, I'm standing still and facing who I am. Maybe that's the first step to healing. Final question for viewers. Can a person who recognizes their own toxicity truly change? Or do some people repeat the same patterns no matter how hard they try? Would you give someone like this another chance? My advice and mature perspective. Maya, the most powerful moment in anyone's emotional growth is the moment they stop blaming the world and start looking inward. You've already done something many adults never do. You took responsibility. But here's the truth. Only experience teaches. Awareness is not the finish line, it's the starting point. Anger isn't the real problem. It's the armor you built as a child to survive what love looked like in your home. And armor keeps danger out, but it also keeps love out. To truly change, you'll need therapy or anger management support, emotional regulation tools, accountability, even when it's uncomfortable, the humility to pause before reacting, the courage to sit with feelings instead of exploding them outward. You're not doomed. You're not broken. You're not unlovable. You're someone who finally realized her heart deserves more than her impulses. And that realization, that's where healing begins. She said yes to my proposal while sleeping with another man. My name is Jake, and when I was 20 years old, I thought I had my whole future figured out. I thought I'd already found my wife. I thought I'd already found the woman I'd grow old with. I thought love was something simple, something you protect, something you honor. But when someone betrays you, your whole definition of love burns down in seconds. The engagement that was supposed to be forever. I met Hannah when we were still teenagers. Young, hopeful, convinced we understood the world. We lived together, we built routines, we shared everything. And by 20, I was certain she was the one. I proposed, she cried, she said yes. And for a while, life really felt perfect, until the night started. The night she didn't come home. At first, it was small, a later shift, a friend's house. Her mom needed her, all believable, all normal, until the nights became too frequent, too random, too convenient. She'd come home the next morning smiling too much, acting like nothing was wrong. My gut knew, but my heart refused to believe it. So I watched, quietly, carefully, and then one day, I found the truth. She wasn't staying with friends. She wasn't staying with her mom. She was sleeping with another man, a man her best friend had introduced her to, while wearing my ring, while planning our wedding, while letting me believe I was her forever. The moment I knew it was over, I didn't explode. I didn't scream. I didn't confront her. Instead, everything inside me went silent. Because betrayal doesn't always feel like fire. Sometimes it feels like ice, like your whole body shuts down to protect you. For days, I pretended everything was normal. I told her I loved her. I kissed her goodnight. I acted like the same man she believed she was fooling. But behind the scenes, I was planning my escape. The disappearing act. I called the landlord. I removed myself from the lease. I found a new place to stay. I packed all my things quietly, and on a weekend when she left for work, I moved out completely. No letter, no explanation, no closure. Just an empty space where my life used to be. I blocked her on everything. Phone, social media, email. I cut the cord so fast it almost felt surgical. Because sometimes you don't need to say anything. Sometimes leaving is the loudest answer. 4 years later, I'm older now, wiser, but not unscarred. It's been 4 years, and I still struggle to let people in. I still flinch when someone is late. I still feel panic when a partner goes quiet. I still wonder if I'm enough. She didn't just cheat. She rewired the way I experience love. And rebuilding that wiring is a slow, painful process. But I'm trying. Every day, step by step, because I want to believe that someday I'll trust someone again. Final question for viewers. If you discovered your fiancé was cheating, would you confront them or disappear like Jake did? And do you think disappearing without a word was justified, or should he have given her closure? My advice and mature perspective. Jake, what you did wasn't immature. It was self-protection. You were 20, barely an adult, yet you handled a devastating betrayal with clarity and control most people in their 30s don't have. And here's a truth you might not hear often. Closure isn't owed to someone who destroyed the relationship. She already knew what she did. She already made her choice. She chose another man every time she walked out at night. You choosing yourself afterward wasn't cruelty, it was survival. But here's the part that matters now. You're no longer that 20-year-old hurt kid. You're a man who went through fire and came out cautious. Yes, but not incapable of love. Healing takes time. Trust builds slowly. But your story doesn't end with betrayal. The right partner won't trigger old wounds. They'll help you rewrite them. And you deserve that chance. He told everyone we broke up months ago, except me. My name is Natalie. I'm 27, and I spent 7 years loving a man who mastered the art of living a double life. And when I found out the truth, I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't beg for answers. I simply disappeared. But before I tell you how, let me tell you what he did. 7 years of forever. My boyfriend Lucas was charming, warm, dependable, the kind of man you imagine building a family with. We had plans. We talked about marriage. We traveled. We shared a home, a dog, a life. This year, he started taking more trips back to his hometown. He said it was to visit his aging grandparents. I never questioned it. Why would I? We were celebrating our 7-year anniversary in Italy a month ago. He held my hand, kissed my forehead, talked about the future like nothing was wrong. I didn't know I was dating a stranger. The screenshot that shattered everything. One morning, a mutual friend sent me a screenshot of Lucas's location on Snapchat. His little Bitmoji was at his parents' house, but next to him on the map was a woman I didn't recognize. It wasn't his mother, not his sister, and definitely not any family friend I knew. I called him. No answer. His location suddenly disappeared. That sinking feeling in my stomach, turns out it was instinct. Because when I asked our mutual friend what was going on, he paused, then said, "Nat, Lucas told everyone you two broke up 4 months ago." I felt the world tilt. He wasn't visiting grandparents. He was living a whole different life behind my back, a life where I didn't exist. The truth unravels. The friend told me more. Lucas was seeing another woman regularly. His parents believed he was moving home because we'd split. He told everyone he was finding the right time to tell me. Our anniversary trip to Italy happened after he supposedly ended things mean. And the final blow? That same friend had walked in on Lucas hooking up with the new girl that very morning. My voice shook when I called another friend from my hometown. She said, "Oh, you mean the guy who's been on Tinder?" And then she sent me screenshots, his photos, his smile, his bio. Our vacation pictures, my face cropped out with the caption, "This could be you." My hands went numb. 7 years of love, memories, inside jokes, shared dreams, reduced to a Tinder tagline. The silent escape. I didn't wait for him to come home. I didn't wait for excuses. I didn't wait for manipulation. I packed every piece of myself in that apartment. Clothes, documents, my dog, everything. I removed my name from the lease. I canceled the Wi-Fi I paid for. I took myself off every shared service. I changed my insurance. I updated my emergency contacts. I froze my credit. I logged out of every device. And as the final touch, I printed his Tinder profile, framed it, and sealed a piece of dog poop inside the frame. A farewell gift. I left the picture on the kitchen table like a tombstone, marking the death of our relationship. Then I dropped my apartment keys in the leasing office mailbox and walked out of that life forever. When he finally found out, hours later his sister called, furious at first. She said I was acting like a crazy ex who couldn't accept a breakup. I told her, "What breakup?" A long silence. Then her voice softened. She realized Lucas had lied to their whole family too. He told them he and I ended things months ago. He introduced them to his new girlfriend, one of his sister's friends. He even planned to move in with her soon. His sister apologized, said she felt sick, said she had no idea he was living a double life. Meanwhile, Lucas was landing at the airport, texting me that he wanted to talk. But I wasn't there, and I never will be. He lost me the moment he lied. He never apologized in his email. He never acknowledged the harm. He ended with, "I love you." But love isn't lies. Love isn't secrecy. Love isn't living one life with a woman and another life behind her back. 7 years were gone in less than 24 hours. And honestly, that was enough. Final question for viewers. Would you disappear the way Natalie did or confront him face to face? And do you think walking away without closure was the right move? My advice and mature perspective, Natalie, what you did was not impulsive or dramatic. It was self-respect. When someone lies for months, not just to you, but to their family, their friends, their entire circle, you aren't dealing with a confused man. You're dealing with someone who is fully capable of building parallel lives and maintaining them flawlessly. That level of deception isn't a mistake. It's a skill. And a person who can lie that well can also manipulate, gaslight, and emotionally dismantle you if given another chance. You didn't just leave. You protected every part of your future. Your finances, your mental health, your safety, your dignity. Walking away silently was the mature choice. Leaving no trace was the strategic choice. And not giving him access to your healing, that was the powerful choice. You closed the door he hoped to keep open forever, and that is how you reclaim your life.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed today's stories, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. I'll see you in the next video.